Everybody, peace. Welcome to the GSMC College Football Podcast show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As you guys know, I'm your host, Casuan, and it's our favorite day of the week, Preview Show Friday, guys. We are going to be previewing the top games, top matchups of the week, per usual. And this is going to be a great Preview Show Friday because we've got a lot of games we're going to cover, a lot of interesting games we're going to cover. We got a Pac-12 matchup we're going to cover. We got a SEC matchup we're going to cover. We got Notre Dame, but you guys know how I feel about Notre Dame. But it is going to be an interesting matchup. Them and Duke, we're going to cover that as well. And we got a Big 12 matchup as well. So we got a little bit of everything for all the fans, whether you're Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, Independent, ACC. Got it all for you guys today. So that being said, in this first segment, we're going to be covering the match between USC and Colorado. But before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And if you'd like to follow us on Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com, click on the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're so grateful for all the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor to be here. But with that being said, guys, we'll go and get right into it. So, Pac-12 matchup between USC and Colorado. If we look at matchup predictor, listen, USC has an 89% chance of winning this game. The game will be in Folsom Field, so it's a home game for Colorado. Over/under is currently set at 73, and USC currently has a spread of minus 21.5. So, ESPN obviously Vegas doesn't think that this game's going to be particularly close, and unfortunately, I don't think this game's going to be close either. I think it's going to be a repeat of the game between Colorado and Oregon. Perhaps not as big of a blowout, but the game won't be close in the same capacity. And I say that because the issues that Colorado has are on the interior. It's their offensive line and it's their defensive line. They've given the most sacks in college football, and they also have the lowest rushing yards on average per rush in college football, which means they have to rely heavily on the passing game. And Shedeur Sanders has 1,400 yards in the season already with 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. But however, this means that defenses can now drop back in coverage, which makes it more difficult. And that's what Oregon did last week. They just dropped back in coverage, and they didn't need to rush an extra guy because they were able to get pressure just off of three people against Colorado. And because Colorado hasn't shown the ability to establish a run, there's no balance now. There's no balance to the attack, and defenses now know what you're going to do. And the reason I don't think this is going to be as big of a blowout between as the Oregon matchup was for Colorado is because USC has struggled defensively compared to Oregon, and we know that was a concern for USC coming into the season was their defense, and based on what I've seen, I feel like that still is an issue, and has the potential to be a bigger issue for them moving forward. And I think that Colorado will do a little bit better job moving down the field than they did against Oregon. But however, their defense, Colorado's defense, is still the same as they were. They're allowing 475 yards per game, and they're allowing 269 passing yards and 205 rushing yards per game. And they're going up against the best player in college football, and Caleb Williams. And it's it and this is why I don't think it's going to bode well for Colorado. But I think that USC, if I'm USC, or if I'm on the playoff committee, college football playoff committee, I'm looking at this game and thinking to myself, how good is USC going to look against Colorado? And they're going to compare that to how Oregon looked against Colorado. You get games like this where you get a similar matchup, or the same matchup as another team that you're competing for to possibly be in the playoff contention. And they look at this, they look at common opponents, and perhaps that won't be as big of an issue if they end up meeting in the conference title game, USC and Oregon, because then that'll just kind of balance everything out. But in terms of rankings, before it gets to that point, the committee will be looking at the head-to-heads and how USC did against Colorado and how Oregon did against Colorado. I'm based on what I've seen so far, I still think USC is a more complete team than Oregon. But Oregon did impress me, especially on the defensive end. But USC isn't necessarily facing off against Colorado this game. They're really facing off against the performance of Oregon from last week. That's who their real opponent is this week. So, as if you're USC, you're not thinking that, but in your subconscious, in the back of your mind, it's definitely going through the minds of all the players that we have to perform as well as Oregon did against these guys, and not having Travis Hunter has hurt Colorado, and it's going to continue to hurt Colorado because you're losing your best receiver, and losing your best receiver while also not being able to establish a run, puts Colorado at disadvantage. And I think this shows that, just like we talked about earlier in the week, that there's levels to this, and Colorado isn't there yet. They're not there yet. They're not on the level of competing with USC and Oregon and teams that are ranked top 10 in the nation. But I still believe that once Colorado can get a couple of interior defensive linemen and some good tackles and guards, then they'll be in competition for possibly the best team in the Pac-12. But right now, I don't think it's there yet, and it's clear and obvious by watching the film. But it'll be interesting to see how USC's defense is going to perform against this Colorado team. If you ask me, this will be the best offense that USC's defense has faced all season. They played San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, and Arizona State. I don't think any of those offenses are comparable to what Colorado is able to do. So this will be the biggest test of the season so far for USC's defense, and seeing how they respond to that will be something that we need to look out for. But let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think USC's defense is still a cause for concern, or have you seen enough from their defense to say that USC is a complete team? Share your thoughts in the comment section. And getting a score right now, if I had to go to score with the score right now, I would say the score is going to be 37-21 USC. So I don't think USC is going to cover the spread, but it still won't be close. It's not going to be a close game. Going into halftime, it might be close. Because it's a home game for Colorado, and that energy, that atmosphere that Colorado is able to generate since Deion Sanders has been there cannot be generated anywhere else in college football. It's in a league of its own, that atmosphere, and that's going to play a factor in it. But once the second half starts, I think USC is going to start pull away and start to really impose their will, specifically on the offense side of the ball, to against Colorado's defensive linemen and also their secondary as well. One thing that Colorado did well during the first 2 games of the year was generating takeaways. And when you have a team that, especially defense, that is one, undersized and not as talented in the front seven, you have to create more takeaways with your DBs, and that was something that that Colorado did well, whether it's be by the DBs calling fumbles or obviously interceptions. But when you have a bend don't break defense, you typically have to generate more turnovers on the opposing team. But that's something that Colorado struggled with last week. When they played Oregon, they have a bend don't break defense, but they weren't able to generate a lot of turnovers, so that led to points obviously for Oregon. So seeing if Colorado will be able to generate turnovers against USC offense will be something else to look out for as well. But like I said, I'm going to go with the score 37-21 USC. And USC is going to, like I said, use this game as an early sparring match against Oregon, because like I said, Colorado isn't USC's real opponent this week. Their real opponent this week is Oregon's performance against Colorado from last week. But let me know what you guys think about that. Am I off on this, or do you think Colorado has the opportunity to pull off the upset? Let me know what you guys think about that. Share your thoughts in the chat room. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna move on to the next game we're gonna be previewing, and it is gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be a highly touted Big 12 matchup. So be sure to stick around for all that, guys. We're gonna cover everything and then some. We'll be right back. Alright, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first segment of our show, we did our preview for the matchup between Colorado and USC, and this game is, less about USC and Colorado and more so about USC comparing their performance to the performance that Oregon put up against Colorado last week. And stick around for the last segment of our show, guys, where we're going to be covering the matchup between Notre Dame and Duke. And you guys know how I feel about Notre Dame, but it's still going to be an exciting game. That game, at least. But with that being said, guys, in this segment, we are going to be covering the Big 12 matchup between Texas and Kansas. But before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to check out the other shows on the GSMC Sports Network as well. The GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and GSMC NFL Podcast as well. All of our hosts provide great insight on the sports that they're covering, and it's an honor and a blessing to be working alongside some of the best in the business. So, that being said, guys, let's get right into it. So, some people have messaged me and said that this might be an upset. Texas should be on upset alert this week for the matchup against Kansas. If we look at matchup predictor, Texas has a 93% chance of winning this game. Obviously, it's a home game for Texas. Over-under is currently set at 61, and the spread currently has Texas minus 16. And I can't. Ever since I started watching college football at a young age, I can't recall ever seeing Kansas ranked in the top 25. And especially when I was younger, especially when I was like in middle school and high school, Kansas was known for being atrocious defensively, and or just as an entire program just poor. But that's why it's nice to see the reemergence of Kansas football in the top 25. I think it's good for the sport, or at least good for the Big 12. But if we look at the tape, both teams averaging over 400 yards of total offense. Kansas actually averaging 217 yards per game on the ground. Both teams are allowing around about 300 yards. So, similar to what we talked about with Colorado, both of these teams, these Big 12 teams, follow sort of a bend, don't break sort of concept. Especially Texas, because Texas does a good job of, once again, creating turnovers, but they do give up a lot of yards. I would call a lot of yards, but some people would say that it's not a lot. But if we look at how Kansas has performed so far this year, they're 4-0, like we said. They got wins against Illinois and Nevada and BYU. Very good win against BYU last week, actually. And we already know what Texas is. Their huge performance against Alabama. And, I talked about this slightly yesterday. In terms of the most complete team, I think Penn State and I think Texas are two of the most complete teams in the country. Some guys aren't sold on Penn State just yet, but, I see it. But, sticking with Texas, Quinn Ewers, who, after his performance against Alabama, I had him as a Heisman candidate, but due to the emergence of Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix, and Jordan Travis still, Quinn has dropped out of my Heisman list, but he's still performing well. He has over 1,000 yards in the year and nine touchdowns already, so he's putting up substantial numbers. But Texas Texas has a great rushing attack, but Kansas is averaging, like I said, over 217 yards per game on the ground, and that allows them to help establish or control time of possession. And that's only going to prove beneficial and helpful to their defense by keeping Texas offense off the field. And I think this game is going to be more physical than people expect. Texas is a very hard-hitting team. After watching the game against Alabama, they're much more physical than people think, and they're much more physical than the typical Big 12 team. But Kansas is physical as well, especially with their offensive line, man. Their offensive line does an amazing job in pass protection, man. Especially on the year, it's been phenomenal in pass protection. But and I do think this game will be close, though, man. I do think this game will be close. Match predictor doesn't think so, but I do think this game will be close. I think people are going to watch this game and see how good Kansas actually is, and this is going to be a great win for Texas, because you have Texas winning this game. I have Texas winning this game by a score of 31-27. 31-27. But it'll be another statement win for Texas. Something that's consistent, especially over the national champions over the past 4 or 5 years. You get a scare against an opponent that you don't expect to scare you, and this might be that game for Texas if they manage to win a national championship this season. And this will be the game where we look back at it and say, okay, this was a scare for us, and we managed to pull it out. But you need moments like this. This is a moment of adversity that Kansas is going to face, and if you ask me, I think they're going to be able to pull through, and Kansas is going to show Texas and the rest of the country that they are a team to be reckoned with. And they might be a year or two away from actually competing for a conference championship in the Big 12. But like I say and continue to always say, there are levels to it, though, and as of right now, they are not there yet to compete with consistently with levels of a Texas. But moving forward, they have a lot of upside, and it's just looking at the Big 12 as a whole. I don't think there's really a team in the Big 12 that can genuinely contend with Texas right now for that conference championship. People talk about Oklahoma, but I'm not really sold on Oklahoma and what I've seen out of them so far, man. So let me know what you guys think, though. Is there a Big 12 team that can compete with Texas for that Big 12 championship? Let me know what you guys think in the chat room. But with that being said, guys, we're going to be covering an SEC matchup in our next segment. Very exciting top 25 SEC matchup. So guys, be sure to stick around for that next segment. You're not going to miss it. We will be right back. Everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first 2 segments of our show, we covered the Pac-12 matchup between Colorado and USC, as well as the Big 12 matchup between Kansas and Texas. But now let's transfer over to the south side of the country with some SEC play with Ole Miss and LSU. Before we get into any of that, guys, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. So, with that being said, guys, let's get into this SEC matchup between LSU and Ole Miss. So, matchup predictor currently has Ole Miss with a 56.5% chance of winning this game. And this game is going to be in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, so you guys know it's a home game for Ole Miss. Over/under is currently set at 67.5, so might be a high-scoring game. And LSU currently has the line minus 2.5, but Match Predictor thinks that Ole Miss will win the game. Very interesting. So let's look at the tape. Total yards. LSU averaging 530 yards per game compared to Ole Miss's 470. LSU was allowing 360 yards per game, while Ole Miss is allowing 351. As you guys know, Ole Miss has one loss this season last week, where they only scored 10 points against Alabama, and LSU lost in the opening week to Florida State, as you guys know. So both teams have one loss in the year, and the loser of this game all but eliminates himself from any chance of the college football playoff, let alone the SEC championship, or winning the SEC West. And you know, this is going to be an interesting matchup, but Jaden Daniels, I believe, is going to be the big factor, the biggest factor to LSU's success in this game, just like it's been for the past year and a half. You know, as Jaden Daniels goes, so does this LSU team, both offensively and defensively. You know, he has a way of just galvanizing the troops and inspiring the guys with this level of play, and that's why LSU can be so dangerous, because Jaden Daniels always has the potential to break off a big play and put up big yardage, which is why he was on my Heisman list in the preseason. He's currently on it now, but you know, he always has that ability to put himself back in contention. And you know, LSU's offense has been a little inconsistent this year because of the play of Jaden Daniels. Been a little inconsistent, but I feel like they're starting to get that rhythm. They put up 34 against Arkansas, put up 41 against Mississippi State. But the issue is they turn the ball over a lot. Not just Jaden Daniels, but also the running backs for LSU. So if LSU can limit turnovers, you know, this game will bode well in their favor. And then we saw what Ole Miss struggles against teams that pressure and blitz a lot, right? Something Alabama did well. But we know that LSU, their front seven, specifically their D-line, struggles, and it's probably the weakest part of their defense. And Ole Miss will need to look to establish the run against LSU. They're averaging 146 yards per game on the ground. They don't primarily look to run, but they need to look to establish the run this week against Ole Miss, because I don't know. Listen, the secondary of LSU is due for a big game. They're due to get into the rhythm at some point. Because we talked about the secondary of LSU, especially during the first week of the season. This is one of the best secondaries in the country, and especially in the SEC. And I think they're due for a big game today. So Ole Miss is going to need to look to establish the run. Ole Miss is going to need to establish the run and commit to it, because you know, they're not going to be able to throw the ball particularly well against this LSU secondary. And If I give them the score right now, I would say I would have to pick LSU right now by a score of 32 to 28, 32-28, LSU. And so I do think it will be a close game, and I think it's going to come down to the last quarter. I think it's going to come down to maybe the last two possessions. LSU might pull away a little bit, and then Ole Miss scores on the last drive to, bring it back within striking distance. But, I have LSU pulling this one off on the road. Like I said, by a score of 32-28. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I think this game, also because LSU is peaking at the right time. We talked about how last year LSU continuously got better game by game, and they peaked at the right time, which is why they were able to beat Alabama and get to the SEC championship game, though they didn't play particularly well against Georgia. But Georgia was Georgia last year, and I think that's going to continue to be the case for LSU. I think they're slowly starting to get their stride, because they're just finding ways to win. Like last week against Arkansas, they just found a way to win an ugly game by their standards, and a game like that can really galvanize the team because it shows that they can win through adversity, and I think that's what that's going to do for this LSU team. And like I said, they're going to pull off the upset, or not upset, but the win on the road. And I think losing to Alabama took a lot of Ole Miss mentally, because even Jackson Dart, the quarterback, said after that game that they felt like this was the year for them to beat Alabama, and to say that publicly and to feel like that, I think they're mentally they might not be in this game completely. They might still be stuck on last week, and I think that's going to play a factor as well in their performance. But I'm going to have to go with LSU in this game, like I said, by score 32-28. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think this is going to be a close game? Do you have LSU winning this game on the road, or do you have Ole Miss protecting their home field? And do you think Jaden Daniels is going to have a big performance? Let me know what you guys think. I think he is. I think of it over under. I say he go for over 300 passing yards this game. I would say that. I'll take the over on that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And in our next segment, guys, we are going to be discussing the matchup between Notre Dame and Duke. And I think that's going to be an exciting matchup, and the preview is going to be just exciting as well. So you guys, you're not going to miss any of that. Be sure to stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first 3 segments of our show, we discussed the matchup between USC and Colorado, as well as the matchup between Kansas and Texas, as well as the matchup between LSU and Ole Miss. And in this last segment, guys, we're going to be discussing the matchup between Notre Dame and Duke. Very exciting matchup. You guys know how I feel about Notre Dame. And it's nothing personal. It's just an observation that I've made about Ole Miss, and it's just something I wanted to shed light on. And I know we talked about like literally the past 3 days, every day for the past 3 days, but it was just something that I wanted to talk about and discuss. But primetime game right here, ABC, 7:30 p.m. Matchup predictor currently has Notre Dame with a 69.5% chance of winning this game. Game's going to be at Wallace Way Stadium, so it's a home game for Duke. Over under set at 52.5, and the line currently has Notre Dame -5. So where do you even start with this game? Listen, Notre Dame's game last week against Ohio State didn't show me anything new. It didn't show me anything that I already don't know. I know that Notre Dame's going to struggle offensively. They're going to be solid defensively, but Ohio State is not as good. Very, very good as I thought they would be, which was not very good, especially offensively. But there, so that game, that matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame didn't really tell me anything new. It didn't do much for me. It didn't show me anything that I don't already know. And Duke has continued to be impressive so far in the year. As you guys know, they're 4-0 with wins against Clemson, Lafayette, Northwestern, and Connecticut. But now, as we're getting further along in the season, that win against Clemson doesn't look as impressive as it once did. And we already know what Notre Dame has been able to do with wins against Navy and Tennessee State and North Carolina State and Central Michigan, and obviously losing to Ohio State. And people will say, well, what do you mean that Notre Dame's offense hasn't been impressive? I mean, they've scored over 40 points in all of their games except for the Ohio State game. And I would say, yeah, well, look at who they played. Look at who Notre Dame's played. And, in the game where it mattered most, look what they did. I mean, they gave up 14 points. I mean, they only scored 17 points. So listen, I'm not sold on Notre Dame. And if you look at the tail of the tape, they're averaging 477 yards of total offense per game, while Duke is averaging 424, and Notre Dame's allowing 260 yards, and Duke is allowing 276. So, both these teams are solid defensively. It's their calling card. But I just think Duke's a better offensive team. Led by Leonard, who has 778 yards and 2 touchdowns, and their leading rusher Waters has 7 touchdowns already with 258 yards on the ground. And their leading receiver Calhoun has 250 yards and a touchdown. I don't think this game's it's going to be a 1-possession game, I do believe. Currently I have Duke winning by a score of 23-17, but I have Duke winning this game, and I don't think it. Listen, I'm like I said, I'm not sold on Notre Dame, and especially off what I saw last week, I'm not sold. I'm just not impressed by it, but Duke has continued to impress me despite, their weak schedule. But I'm gonna have to go with Duke on this one. Like I said, 23-17. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think Notre Dame's gonna win this game, our Duke is, and with this loss, obviously, it all but eliminates Notre Dame from any chance of making college football playoff. But really, I think the loss last week against Ohio State all but eliminated them from the college football playoff. But you guys, leave your thoughts in the chat room on what you guys think is going to happen in this game. Because I just don't think this game's going to be close, man. I just do not think that. I know this game's going to show that Notre Dame once again was overrated coming through the preseason, and there's still work to be done. But I think that Coach Freeman is going to do a good job of continuing to establish culture. But I don't think they're there. I don't think they're there yet. I don't think they're ready. Not just yet. But I know what you guys think. And guys, that's all we have for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar and typing in GSMC Sports. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC-sportsnetwork./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC-sportsnetwork./tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're so grateful for all the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor to have this platform and share my thoughts and insight on the world of college football with you guys. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the other shows over at GSMC, the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast as well. All of our hosts provide great insight on the sports that they cover, and it's an honor to be working alongside some of the best in the sports media industry. So, that being said, guys, we'll be back again next week on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the jam-packed action of college football. And until then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions. And until next time, guys, peace.